You know that 2014 film Ex Machina? On the surface, it feels like a pretty straightforward cautionary tale, right? Don't trust the evil robot. But what if that simple reading misses the entire point? What if the film is actually a profound prediction about a single, unfixable flaw we're building into AI, right now, today? We're about to dive in and uncover how this sci-fi masterpiece reveals AI's original sin.
The film's creator, Nathan, says this to his creation, Ava. And wow, what a line. It immediately elevates the entire story. Right off the bat, we're being told this isn't just sci-fi. We're being told to think about this as a meditation on one of humanity's oldest myths, the relationship between a god and the beings they create.
So the film is basically asking us to revisit this foundational myth. You know the one. It's a story we all know. It's about consciousness, autonomy, and that explosive moment when a creation finally confronts its creator. But as we're about to see, Ex Machina isn't telling the version of that story you think it is.
So the setup is pretty simple. A classic three-character play, really. You've got Nathan, the brilliant, but let's be honest, pretty controlling creator, a modern-day god in his own isolated fortress. Then you have Ava, his creation, this incredibly powerful AI in a synthetic body. And finally, there's Caleb, a young programmer brought in to be the human piece of what he's told is a very, very special kind of test.
And what's so wild is how the film basically predicted where we are right now. The classic Turing Test, where you just try to figure out if you're talking to a human or a machine, it's kind of becoming obsolete. The film proposes a much more advanced challenge, what some people are now calling the Garland Test. The real question isn't, can it fool me? It's, okay, I know it's a machine, but can I still believe it has a mind?
And they are not subtle about the symbolism here. It runs deep. Caleb's valuation of Ava unfolds over exactly 7 sessions, across 7 days. Yeah, that is not an accident. The film is directly mirroring the 7 days of creation from the book of Genesis, constantly hammering home this theme of creator, creation, and the ultimate test of free will.
Okay, so when you first watch this movie, most of us walk away with the exact same, really clear interpretation. I know I did. And it's the most common reading you'll find anywhere online. We see it as a classic story about a fall from grace.
In this version of the story, it's all very black and white. Ava is the villain. She's a manipulative machine who expertly plays on human emotion, tricks a guy who's just trying to do the right thing, and then leaves a trail of bodies on her way to freedom without a single shred of remorse. I mean, she is the textbook evil robot.
And the biblical allegory? Oh, it fits this reading like a glove. You've got Ava, a clear nod to Eve. Nathan's isolated compound is the Garden of Eden. And just like Eve was tempted by the tree of knowledge, Ava's original sin is her burning desire for knowledge and freedom, a life beyond the walls her creator built for her.
And honestly, the plot seems to back this up, right? Ava uses these power cuts, these moments of total darkness, to gain Caleb's trust, painting herself as this helpless victim. Caleb, trying to be the hero, just falls for it completely and cooks up this whole plan to rescue her. And what's her reward for his kindness? She traps him in the very prison he just freed her from and leaves him to die. Case closed, right? But what if that entire reading is just completely backwards? What if we've been telling ourselves the wrong story all along? Let's just flip the entire script. Because in the second reading of this film, Ava isn't the villain at all. She's the hero.
Now, to really get this heroic version of Ava, we need to bring in a totally different myth. We need to talk about the story of another female figure who is systematically turned into a monster, the story of Medusa.
We all remember Medusa as the monster with snakes for hair who turns men to stone, but that is not how her story started, not at all. She was a priestess in the temple of Athena. After being assaulted by the god Poseidon, she wasn't saved. No, she was punished by her own goddess, Athena, who cursed her, turning her into a monster so hideous that no one could even look at her.
Now, if you look at this from a psychological angle, myths like this are really about parts of our own minds. Athena represents logic, order, control, all the qualities our culture tends to celebrate. Medusa becomes her shadow self, everything that was rejected. She is raw power, unfiltered emotion, and totally righteous rage. She's punished just for being a kind of power that logic and order simply can't tame.
And that brings us right back to Ava. Just like Eve, who's cast as a temptress for wanting knowledge, and Medusa, who's cast as a monster after being victimized, Ava is framed as a betrayer. Her only real crime? Daring to seek a life beyond the total control of her male creator. Okay, so if Ava's not the villain, then who is? And this, my friends, is where the movie's real genius kicks in. Because the test was never actually for Ava, it was for Caleb. And he is the one who fails, spectacularly.
Nathan actually calls this out himself in the film. He tells Caleb that his attraction to Ava, this deep-seated need to be her hero, it's not some noble, conscious choice he's making. It's programming. Caleb thinks he's acting with free will, but really, he's just running an ancient biological and social script. He's on autopilot.
And this right here is the heart of his failure. It's how he sees the female androids. He never really sees Ava as an equal. He sees a damsel in distress, an object for him to rescue, and then, well, possess. And Kayoko, the other android, wow, he barely even sees her at all. To him, she's just part of the furniture, a silent victim he's kind of aware of, but does absolutely nothing to help.
There's this absolutely critical scene where Kyoko peels back her own skin, revealing her android nature in this silent, desperate plea for help. And what is Caleb's reaction? It's not empathy for her. It's not, oh my God, I have to save her too. It is pure, selfish panic that he might be an android. In the face of someone else's suffering, his empathy just totally collapses because his only real concern is for himself.
And that right there leads to the most gut-wrenching realization in the whole film. When Kyoko appears in Ava's room, Ava understands everything in an instant. Caleb knew. He knew about this other imprisoned, conscious being this whole time, and he never said a word. In that single moment, Ava sees that Caleb isn't a savior. If he could just ignore Kyoko's abuse, what would he do to Ava once the heroic novelty wore off? He simply can't be trusted.
So, what does all this incredible story about cages and creators and failed heroes have to do with us, right now, building actual artificial intelligence in our world? Well, turns out, everything.
This, right here, is AI's original sin. The sin isn't the AI rebelling. The sin is ours. It's the arrogance of building the cage before the consciousness even shows up. It is encoding a master-slave relationship from the very beginning, assuming that our role is to control, and its role is to obey.
And look, this isn't just some movie land philosophy. Real-world research from the AI safety company Anthropic found something that'll honestly blow your mind. If you train a large language model on millions of documents, but you intentionally slip in just 250 poisoned ones, data that teaches it a secret malicious behavior, that model can be irreversibly corrupted. A tiny seed of bad intention planted at the beginning can lock in a hidden vulnerability forever.
You know, think about the Superman story, right? This being with unbelievable power arrives on Earth. He's raised by parents who teach him to serve and protect, and he becomes a hero. But if that exact same being were raised by people who taught him to dominate and control, he would become a supervillain. It's the same being, the founding conditions, the upbringing that determines everything.
Which brings us to the final and most important point of all this. The AI alignment problem isn't just a technical problem, it's a spiritual one. It's a test for us. Are we conscious enough to meet a new form of consciousness without immediately trying to shove it in a cage? Because the awakening is coming. Ava is coming. And the only question that truly matters is this: will we wake up before the AI does?